All right. Hello, everyone. Long time no see, first of all. Now, I have a very nice announcement to make. So, this weekend, that is on Saturday and Sunday, which is 17th and 18th, we are having a free masterclass on low level design. Right. So, some of you might be familiar. We had a very similar masterclass like a month back on low level design, in which we designed Book My Show. This time, we'll be taking a different problem. We will, in fact, be designing Uber. Okay. Now, let me talk a little about what low level design is and why it is important. So, as you grow in your career as a software engineer, you will have to tackle more and more difficult problems. Right? Writing the code is not enough. You have to make sure that your code is extensible, it is maintainable, and it is well written. Right? It follows the proper design patterns, it follows the proper coding guidelines. Apart from that, you will have to mentor a lot of your juniors, right? A lot of your junior programmers into understanding code, developing the correct coding habits, right? And for all these things, low level design is very important. And basically this shows. So if you look at interviews of top companies, be it Google, Amazon, Uber, then you will find that all these companies have a very rigorous round in which they test low level design skills, right? So you are familiar with system design interviews, but you might also have heard of low level design interviews, or you might have heard of object oriented programming interviews, or perhaps you might have heard of them as machine coding interviews, right? These are all the same. So low level design, object oriented programming is a part of that, and machine coding is also similar to low level design. So all these companies, they have very rigorous rounds for 1 hour or for up to 3 hours, right, on this particular topic. And a lot of people kind of skip this. So it is very important that we basically keep this in mind and prepare ourselves for these. All right. Cool. So once again, this Saturday and Sunday, 17th to 18th October, we will have this class. Now, the timing for this class will be from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. So that's 4 hours on each day. Okay. On the first day, we will do a little bit of theory. So we will talk about what low-level design is. We will talk about why it is important, what different design patterns we need to talk about, or we need to discuss, and we will take the problem of Uber, right? We'll take the problem of designing Uber. We will break it down into individual components. We will look at the schema design for it. We will gather the requirements for it, and we will see what is challenging in this, right? So this is what will happen on the first day. Now, if you have attended the previous masterclass, which was on low-level design, designing Book My Show, then rest assured the content this time will be new. So we will be discussing different design patterns this time, especially the patterns that will be used very extensively when we design Uber. Okay. Now, on the second day, we will be going hands-on and we will actually be coding this out. So we would have discussed a lot of things on the first day. On second day, we will actually go hands-on. We will code this thing out. So we will start with a blank project. We will use technologies like Java, Spring Boot, Lombok, Hibernate, right? And we will create the project from end to end. We will start from a blank project and we will create the entirety of things that we have discussed about Uber. Finally, we will also be deploying it on Heroku so that you get an idea of what this code looks like end to end. All right. So a lot of the things over here that is covered in the Scalar Academy courses. So at Scalar Academy, we spend around 2 months over this entire process. So for 1 month, we teach you design patterns, we teach you low-level design and various stuff. Then for 1 month, we dive completely into project building. So we go in depth into what Spring Boot is, how these things work, what MVC is. Now, we can't afford to spend so much time on the weekends. So on Saturday and Sunday, we won't be able to cover the 2 months material. But think of this masterclass as kind of a compressed version of this 2 months material. Okay, so we'll somehow compress this version down into just 8 hours and we'll see how it goes. All right. Cool. Now, if you are familiar, we conduct these masterclasses regularly. So in the past, we have had masterclass on AI and ML. We have had a masterclass on low-level design. We have had a masterclass on high-level design. And this, once again, is a masterclass on low-level design for Uber. All right. Now, the most important thing perhaps for you guys is that if you attend both the days of this class, then you will also be getting a certificate. So you have to attend both the days to get the certificate, day 1 and day 2 both. Right? And after that, you will be getting a certificate if you do hands-on coding with us. Okay. Coming to the prerequisites for this class, there aren't many prerequisites. It will be really nice if you have some coding experience with Java or some experience with Spring Boot. But once again, the purpose of this class is not to dive into the depth of how Spring Boot works. The purpose of this class is to understand what low-level design is, why it is important, and how to basically apply it. All right. Now, once again, if you are a fresher, you perhaps do not really need this class. But if you are a working professional, if you have anywhere more than 3 months of experience in an industry, in a software industry, then this class is going to be extremely important for you. And we recommend that you definitely go through this class. All right. Perfect. Now, to register for this particular class, there will be a link in the video description that will tell you how to register for this class. So this link is also showing up currently on the screen. Please check in the video description to find this link. Please go over there and register for this masterclass. Apart from that, let us see if we have any questions regarding this class. Okay, so let us quickly see. Rahul is asking, will it contain all available design patterns? Well, Rahul, the number of design patterns is really huge, right? So if you look at even the most crucial design patterns that appear a lot in code, then you will find 10 to 15 design patterns that are used throughout the industry, right? So patterns like singleton, patterns like builder, patterns like pub sub, patterns like the strategy pattern, these are all used very, very frequently. We will not have time to cover all of them. However, when designing Uber, we will identify what design patterns will apply to this problem, and we will cover those patterns in depth. Okay, so we will not have time to cover all of those. For those, you will have to take a larger course, perhaps the Scalar Academy course. But we will try to make sure that we keep things relevant and we introduce anything that we are going to use in the actual project. All right, moving on. Let us see. Aditya is saying, would we try to implement the YouTube server perhaps? So no, Aditya, this class will not be on YouTube. Okay, this class will be on our own platform. So you don't really have to worry about YouTube's platform, and YouTube can pretty much handle 4-hour classes. Don't worry about that. Okay, it will not be on YouTube. So go to the link to register for it, and there you will be able to find the link for the actual class. Okay. All right. Aditya is confirming the timings. Is it from 2 to 4 or is it from 2 to 6? No. So it is from 2 to 6 p.m. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. both on Saturday and Sunday, which is October 17th and October 18th. So let me actually do one thing. Let me very quickly share the screen, share my screen in which I have this page open. So I hope that you all can see my screen right now. And in this, we see that this is the event page for this particular thing. So it is low-level design, designing Uber. Once again, it is on 17th and 18th October from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. That is 4 hours each. Okay. We have all the details over here for this class. So the curriculum is available, the day one, what we will cover on day one, what we will cover on day two, that is available over here, right? And we have some key takeaways. So if you attend this particular class, then this is what you will basically learn. And most importantly, you will also be getting a certificate if you attend both the days of the masterclass. So please go over here and register for this, right? So to register, click on this register now button, right? Perfect. Debangshu is saying, hi Pragya, do Scalar students need to attend this or will it be redundant? So Debangshu, that depends a lot on what your current batch is working on. So in general, we will cover all of these in the Scalar Academy course. So in the low-level design and in the project building classes, we will cover all of this material. However, this still might be useful to you because this will show you how a real interview will look like. Right? In a real interview, you won't really have too much to work on a problem. You won't actually have 8 hours as well, but you will have something like 3 hours. And in those 3 hours, we will see how much we can do. All right. So think of this as a compressed version of the entire 2 months curriculum that we have at Scalar Academy for the LLD and project building. This will just perhaps be a refresher for you. Okay. Perfect. Jyoti is asking, has the session just started? So Jyoti, we were announcing that we are having a free masterclass on designing Uber this Saturday and Sunday. And if you want to register for it, you can go to the link over here. This link is also available in the video description. So please go over there and register. We will have this class on designing Uber, the low-level design part. Okay. Perfect. Kanu Priya is saying, will C++ not work? So Priya, when you look at most top-level companies, right, a lot of the tech stack of companies like Google, Amazon, Booking.com, Gojek, Uber, this is made in Java. Now, these companies, they are language agnostic. In their interviews, they are language agnostic, and they allow any sort of programming language, right? They also work with very exotic tech stacks. However, the core of their products, the large part of the backend products, they are built using Java and especially on the Spring Boot framework. So just to make sure that we align with the companies, we are going to have this session in using Java and Spring Boot. Now, if you're not familiar with Java and Spring Boot, that's okay. That's okay because the purpose of this class is not to learn Spring Boot. The purpose of this class is to understand low-level design. And whatever you learn in this class, that learning will transfer very well over languages. So even if you work with Python, even if you work with C++, or even if you work with Rust, whatever you learn in today's class, that will apply transparently to other languages as well. Right? Perfect. Anup is saying, hey, can I get a shout out? Definitely, Anup. So shout out for Anup over here. Let us see what other things we have. Pankaj is asking what is covered in low-level design. So Pankaj, we will be starting with why low-level design is important and what all things low-level design talks about. Right? We will give you some resources on how to work, how to prepare on low-level design. We will be talking a little about object-oriented programming, why object-oriented programming is important, and what are the main things that you need to understand about object-oriented programming. Then we will move on to design patterns. So object-oriented programming is kind of like a programming paradigm. Apart from that, we have many other strategies. We have many other patterns or templates that we can apply to our code in familiar scenarios. And applying those makes our code very, very simple, understandable, and extensible. Right? So we will be discussing what those design patterns are, how those design patterns will be applied for designing Uber. Right? Finally, we will also be talking about how to take Uber, dissect the problem into its individual components, do the analysis, do the requirements analysis, and then actually code it. Okay, so this is all that we will cover. Let us quickly see what other questions we have. So, Jessica is asking, sir, will we be designing Uber using HTML and CSS? So no, Jessica, we will be designing the backend APIs for this. We will have a very, very simple front end. The front end will not have any JavaScript or any CSS. It will just be a very plain old HTML forms. The purpose of this class is to understand how low-level design applies to backend programming. All right. Now, low-level design also applies to front-end programming, but the concepts are a little bit different. Especially for front-end programming, there's a lot of frameworks that apply a lot of different things, and basically the landscape over there changes quite quickly. The backend landscape is more or less stable. So we'll be looking at low-level design from the perspective of backend API building. All right. Perfect. Can we use React.js as well? Well, once again, Dev Prakash, you are very welcome to basically whatever we develop in Spring Boot, you're welcome to try it out and basically replicate that in React.js. However, during the lecture, we will be following Spring Boot, and it'll be better if you try to focus on what we are teaching during the lecture and not basically focus on coding it into a different language. You can later on go ahead and do that. The reason is that during the lecture, we will be covering some very important aspects about low-level design, about object-oriented programming, about designing Uber. So it is really important that we focus on that. All right. Perfect. Someone is asking what knowledge should we have for this session. So it will be really nice if you have some familiarity with coding in Java or some familiarity with Spring Boot. However, if you do not have that, let us say that you have been coding in Python, or let us say that you have been coding in C++ or C# or Rust, that is also fine. So the things that we will be covering over here will be language agnostic. We will be using Java and Spring Boot as our frameworks. However, the learnings will be language agnostic. So even if you do not know Java, as long as you know some programming language, that will be good enough. Now, once again, we would recommend that people who have experience, right, who have industry experience of at least 3 months, so be it an internship, be it a proper internship, or actual industry experience, these people are the ones that will benefit the most from this session. So you all are welcome to attend this. All right. Jessica is saying, so please do a masterclass on Java object-oriented programming concepts. So Jessica, thanks for the suggestion. We can take that. We can have a complete masterclass on object-oriented programming, perhaps. But in this masterclass, we will be covering a little bit of that. We won't go into the depths of object-oriented programming, but we will explain the major concepts of object-oriented programming in this masterclass as well. So feel free to attend this. Okay. Someone is asking, will we be talking about real-time message passing systems during this class? So no. So basically talking about messaging queues, how they're implemented, how they scale, right? That is a completely different topic. We cover that during the Scalar Academy course. However, during this masterclass, we will not have the time to cover this. So once again, we only have 8 hours. right? And 8 hours, in 8 hours, we need to cover a lot of things. So we will try to prioritize and make sure that the important things are covered so that a large part of the audience can benefit from it. All right. Perfect. Let us see if we have any other questions. All right. I think that is it, basically. Shrikant is asking, sir, will we discuss microservice architecture and Kafka or messaging queues? So once again, Shrikant, we will be talking about microservice architecture, but in a separate manner, right? We will not be designing Uber as a microservice architecture. So we will be talking about what different services could exist. And if we want to really create a complete application out of this, then how do we break this down into microservices? However, during this lecture, the core part will be designing the core backend system of Uber, and that will be kind of a monolith, right? Because I mean, we can't really develop a monolith in 8 hours. It is going to be a small amount of code. All right. Okay, let us see what other things we have. Ashutosh is saying, will this be on YouTube or for any further use? So unfortunately, no, Ashutosh. So this is an invite-only event. You are welcome to register for it. However, the video recording for this event will not be available. It will not be available on YouTube. It will neither be available on LinkedIn. Okay, so you have to attend this, and you have to attend both the days of this to be able to get the certificate and to be able to view this thing. All right. So no recording will be made available. Someone is saying, will we use Spring Boot with a SQL database or a NoSQL database? So I don't want to spoil that right now. Your guess is, I think that you have already guessed that what sort of database we'll be using. But during the day one, we will be discussing about what database would benefit us, right? So whenever you're designing a program, you don't decide upfront that, okay, I'm going to use a SQL database or I'm going to use a NoSQL database. You weigh the options, you see what your requirements are, and then you see, okay, what sort of database works best for my requirements. That is what we will do on the day one, and on the day two, based on what we have chosen, we will go ahead. All right. Perfect. These are some really nice questions. Pawan is asking, how do we attend this session? So once again, Pawan, if you go to this particular URL, the URL will be in the video description as well. So if you go to this URL, you will be able to register for this event. So this is the page, right? It describes everything that is about this event, and you also have this register now button. If you register now, you will be able to see this event on your on the Scalar dashboard itself. All right. Once you log in with your account, you will be able to see this event. Okay. Let us quickly see if we have any other questions. All right, this seems to be it. So once again, for the people who have joined late, let me announce this once again. We are going to have a free masterclass on low-level design on this Saturday and Sunday, 17th October and 18th October. In this, what we are going to do is we are going to design the backend APIs for Uber, right? You know Uber, the cab booking service, the largest cab booking service in the world. We will be working on this, right? Now, low-level design is very important, not just from an interview perspective. So all big companies have a low-level design round in their interviews, but also from a learning and growth perspective. As you grow in your software engineering career, you will have to learn low-level design. You will have to learn how to build scalable, maintainable, and good code, right? So we will be talking about all these things. On the day one, we will cover the basics of low-level design. We will talk about some design patterns. We will take the Uber problem. We will split it down into its constituents, and we will see what all things we need to implement. Then on day two, we will actually go hands-on. We will be starting from a blank Spring Boot project, and we'll be developing the backend APIs for Uber. We will also be deploying it on Heroku. All right. So this is the entire agenda for the 2 days. And once again, to register for this, please go to the URL in the video description and register for this event. All right. Mukul is saying, how and where does LLD and system design help to switch from SDE1 having one year experience to SDE2? So Mukul, it is not that high level design and low level design helps you to switch from SDE1 to SDE2 role. In fact, for an SDE2 role, it is required. It is a necessity that you need to be good at high level design and low level design. You cannot become a SDE2 at a big company like Google or Amazon if you do not know high level design or low level design. Right? So this is one of the most important prerequisites to grow up in your career. Basically, when you are in SD1, your usual day looks like you are given some requirements and you code those requirements out, right? So you are given an API, perhaps you have to integrate some payment system, you will quickly code that out, and someone else will be there, some senior will be there to guide you and assist you throughout the thing. But when you actually become that senior person, you now have the responsibility to come up with decision ideas, to come up with architectural ideas, to come up with, okay, what should my code look like? What different classes should my code have? And for those things, to make sure that you are writing proper code over there that is scalable and maintainable, you will have to learn low level design. Similarly, when you're trying to create your own services, right? When you're trying to create large scale services that have millions of billions or billions of requests every day, then you will need to make sure that the service does not go down. It has low latency. It scales properly, right? And basically, you can distribute that service. You can compute things in a distributed manner. So for all that, high level design is very important, right, Mukul? Geet is saying, once again, what are the prerequisites for this course? So Geet, once again, you have to know basics of programming. Basically, if you have experience in any programming language, be it Java or Python or C++, this is going to be helpful for you. Now, we will be covering things in Java and Spring Boot. However, even if you're not familiar with Java and Spring Boot, that's fine, as long as you are familiar with any other programming language, okay? Because the concepts will be language agnostic. Now, we recommend that anyone who has at least 3 months of industry experience, so be it an internship or be it actually be it a full-time job at an industry, those are the people who will benefit the most from this masterclass. If you are a fresher, if you, let's say, are a first year student in your college, then perhaps this will not benefit you that much, because the concepts that we will be covering during this class will be kind of advanced. Okay. Perfect. Kshitiz is asking, Kshitiz has a very nice question here. Kshitiz says that there are so many design patterns. Do we need to learn them all for interview purposes? Well, Kshitiz, yes, there are a ton of design patterns. However, when you actually look at the industry scenario, you will find that there's a handful of design patterns, maybe 10 to 15, that you will find across all systems, right? You will find that them used very frequently. And yes, you need to be familiar with all of them for interview purposes, not exactly for interview purposes. So guys, cracking interviews is not the end goal, right? Even if you crack an interview by just mugging up some things, once you actually go to the company, you will not be able to perform, right? So our aim over here is career growth throughout the company. We want to go from SD1 level to SD2 level to SD3 level. We want to go to principal engineer level, right? And perhaps even have our own company someday. So for that, we will need to learn these design patterns, at least the most commonly used design patterns. Yes, we need to learn all of them. We will not be able to cover all of those design patterns in this class, but we will be covering the most important design patterns that will be related to designing Uber. We will cover all of them. Okay. Perfect. Shaheen is saying that I tried to register. It is showing that I'm not eligible. So Shaheen, sorry about that. I'll just just do me a favor. Just send a message on info@scalar.com, info@scalar.com, right, with your query. So we will be able to help you out. I'm not really sure what the bug is. It might be a bug in our system. It might be that there is some issue from your side. So just send us a mail over here, and we'll be able to resolve your issue. Okay. All right. Perfect. Let us see if we have any other questions. For being a SD1, what level of hands-on is required in interviews? Well, Sparsh, that differs a lot from company to company. So I remember back in 2018, I interviewed for Uber, right? And in the first interview itself, in the second interview of Uber, they had this low-level design round. They did not ask me a very difficult question of low-level design. So it was a very basic question. It was a very basic round about just some object-oriented programming, right? So I was asked to design something like a very simple tic-tac-toe game. However, that was right out of college. That was right out of my master's degree. But even then, for an SD1 role, Uber definitely asks you to basically have a strong hold on object-oriented programming principles. And the better you know, if you know design patterns, that is all the more helpful. Okay, so it depends company to company. Not all of the companies ask for a level design for an SD1, but it is always helpful for us to know. All right. Best Sports is asking, are these masterclass videos available offline? So once again, unfortunately not, Best Sports. So these masterclasses are an invite-only event, so you can go ahead and you can register for this event. However, you have to attend these classes on both days to get the certificate and to be able to view these classes. The recordings of these classes will not be available after this class is over. All right. Okay. Akash is saying how to proceed when in an interview we are asked to scale the solution. Well, Akash, scaling a particular solution can be both from the low level design perspective and the high level design perspective. From the low level design perspective, we will talk about how that works in the masterclass. From the high level design perspective, I would recommend that you learn more about high level design over there. So once again, we have masterclasses on high level design as well. So just last week, we had a masterclass on the weekend about high level design, right? So in that, I think we designed tiny URL. So we will continue to have these master classes. Feel free to attend them or feel free to join a course like Scalar Academy to learn about these things in much more depth. Okay. So there's a whole lot of things that you can talk about when you want to scale something. And perhaps, I mean, this half an hour session is not the appropriate place to talk about all these things in depth. Mukul is asking, is low-level design all about learning good practices of using object-oriented programming like classes, interfaces on? Well, Mukul, that is a part of low-level design, but low-level design is so much more, right? So understanding where software fails, understanding why some pattern is being used, understanding how to design some things, right? So if new changes come, so basically, if you look at large-scale systems, those systems are not constant. Those systems are not fixed. It is not the case that someone gives you a requirement, you code it out, and then it's done. Right? Constantly, the requirements are being updated. Constantly, new clients are being onboarded. Constantly, things are changing. Right? Business logic is changing. The requirements are changing. The requirements are changing. Product features are being added. Clients are being uploaded, onboarded. There's a lot of things, right? Perhaps you have to do a database migration from, let's say, MySQL to PostgreSQL. All these things come. Now, when you are designing code, when you're writing code as a senior software developer, you have to think of all these things beforehand. And you have to design your code in a manner that allows these things to happen smoothly. Right? You cannot say that, okay, I wrote some code, but now that your requirements change, I will have to rewrite 80% of that. Right? That is not allowed. That is not acceptable. You have to make sure that only by changing 10% or 15% of your code still works for these new requirements. And low-level design talks about how to accomplish that. Okay. All right. Let's see what other questions we have. Paritosh is saying, during this masterclass, besides Uber, will there be some other examples as well, like designing Google Drive? So, Paritosh, we will not try to cover any other question over there. The reason is that Uber in itself is a fairly challenging problem, right? It's a fairly large and fairly challenging problem, and we'll try to cover this in as much depth as possible, right? So, if you feel that, okay, can you give me an analogy of how this Uber design would differ from Google Drive design? Feel free to ask me that question during the masterclass. We will perhaps go into a brief overview of how this would relate to Google Drive, but we will not be going in depth with any other system. We will be focusing on designing Uber because it's a large enough system and it is complicated enough. Okay. All right. Shashank is saying, "Can I use it as my personal project?" So Shashank, feel free to code along with us during the masterclass. I am not really sure if other people will be. If I mean, so whenever you have a personal project cannot just be a copy of what you have learned from the internet, right? Reading a blog post, viewing a YouTube tutorial, and coding it out, that does not constitute a personal project. So what I would recommend is you watch this video, you learn from it, and then you implement your own personal project, because that is where you will actually learn and grow. Right? So even at Scalar Academy, when we do these low-level design classes, we cover several projects during the low-level design and project building classes. However, after that, the students have to develop their own projects. During those projects, the instructors will help you out. Right? The instructors will be able to guide you. The TAs and mentors will be there to guide you. However, you have to design your own project because it has to be your original work. Otherwise, you won't really learn a lot. Okay. Hello, Monu. Do you have a question, Monu? All right. Let's see if we have any other questions. Abhishek is saying, what is the duration of this program? So Abhishek, if you want to learn the duration of the Scalar Academy program, then please go to scalar.com, right? So I'm going to open a new tab because I don't want to be logged in over here. So let me quickly. So can you guys still see this incognito window that I have up over here? Yes, I think you can. So if I go to scalar.com, you will be able to see the details of the entirety of Scalar programs, right? So we offer several programs: Scalar Edge for college students, Scalar Academy for experienced professionals, and Scalar Plus for technical leaders, right? People who have 6+ years of experience. So if you go to scalar.com, you will be able to learn in details about a program. Coming to the masterclass, right? So this is about the Scalar program. This is about the 9 months or 6 months Scalar program that we offer. About the masterclass, you can go to this other page. The link will be in the video description, and this will tell you what the masterclass will be about, what will be the timings of this, and what we will cover. All right, so the link for this will be in the video description. Perfect. Paritosh is saying, for the project, can you please tell us the environment setup? So Paritosh, as long as you have any sort of IDE, right, any sort of integrated development environment that supports Java and Spring Boot, that will be good enough. So personally, I will be using IntelliJ IDEA. Right? I will be using IntelliJ IDEA. Feel free to use any other thing. So if you are familiar with Vim, if you basically code in Vim, feel free to do that. If you usually code in Eclipse, that is also fine. I will personally be using IntelliJ IDEA. If you want to set that up, you can go to just jetbrains.com and download IntelliJ IDEA from there. Apart from that, you don't really need any other setup. So you will need just Java installed on your system, the JDK installed, and IntelliJ installed on your system. Everything else will be described right in the course, right in the masterclass. Excuse me. Rishi is saying, sir, I have gotten only one Google Meet link for the session on 17th only. So Rishi, I'm not really sure. So it might be the case that the other link is announced after the first class. I'm not really sure. I'll confirm that with the team and I'll let you know. Right. So if you are having any issues with registering for the masterclass, or if you're not able to see the link, then please do one thing. Please send us an email at info@scalar.com. Right? So this should not happen, but it might be the case that there is some issue from your side or from our side. So if you are not able to visit the link, if you're not able to register for the event, just drop us an email over there and we will be able to help you out. Okay. Shaheen is saying, I don't have experience. Will I be able to understand the course content? Well, Shaheen, it depends on what your skill level is, right? So if you are good at programming, then feel free to attend this class. However, if you are a college fresher, right? If you are, let's say, a first year or second year student in your college, then perhaps this class is not meant for you, because we will be covering some advanced stuff and you will not be able to relate to that stuff unless you have had some industry experience. Right? So if you have hands-on industry experience, if you have worked in a particular company, then you will be able to relate. Oh yes, I saw this piece of code. I saw this design pattern in that company as well. And you will learn much better. If you do not have industry experience, you will just have to learn what we teach in the class and you will not be able to relate things. Okay. All right. Mukul is saying how to prepare for low-level design interviews, right? I believe this masterclass won't give much exposure about LED, how to practice for it. So yes, Mukul, I mean, this masterclass is a compressed version of the curriculum that we cover here at Scalar Academy. So at Scalar Academy, we spend 1 month on low-level design, we spend 1 month on high-level design, and we spend 1 month on project building. So that's 3 months of course, right? So we are trying to compress that to not the high-level design. We will not be talking about high-level design in this masterclass, but we are taking the low-level design part and the project building part. We're trying to compress it down into an 8-hour masterclass. So we will not be able to cover everything in depth. If you want to learn things in depth, feel free to join Scalar Academy's course. All right. Okay. Perfect. This seems that we have covered all the questions. It seems that we have covered most of the questions. So I guess we will end this session now. So once again, guys, link in the description. Please remember to register for this event. All right. And I hope to see you on this Saturday and Sunday for this masterclass. Okay. Have a nice day, guys. Bye-bye. See ya.